and welcome to another episode of the Wadhwani Viewpoint podcast. My name is Manali Shah, and today's conversation is going to be all about startups. Joining us is Shivjeet Ghatge, the co founder and CEO of the hugely successful app StepSetGo. And when I say hugely successful, I mean it. The AI enabled fitness app has seen over 10 million downloads across India. The app features a unique rewards based system that motivates the users to continue working towards their fitness goals. StepSetGo has raised 5 crore in seed funding. That's not a small amount by any means. So, congratulations on that, first of all. And let's talk about the factors that enabled you to raise that funding.
StepSetGo, in terms of its funding journey, has been a mixed bag, right? So we tend to, when we started, we tend to get a lot of investors excited because of the kind of growth that we were doing. But we also got them uninterested in us fairly fast because our revenue model was based around advertising, right? So by default, so basically how advertising revenue works is that you are getting money mostly from Google or Facebook for advertising. They are anyway taking 40% of your cut or whatever. As 40%, don't quote me on this, but it's not completely clear how much of that is being gone to Google and this thing, that's not thing, but they take a cut from whatever you're earning. So at the end of the day, if you truly want to scale and become a unicorn, let's say for that matter, right, you can't scale it just on this revenue, right? Because there is a glass ceiling there. And that is where StepSetGo's first kind of hurdle came into the way, because while we have growth, while we had very good stickiness, while we're actually number one in India when it comes to user retention, user growth, user stickiness, when it comes to the fitness category, right? We still were making money through advertising throughout the first 1.5 years. We were a profitable organization at that point of time. We kept the money aside for a rainy day, which we needed, right? And because COVID hit, right? So, and our team had grown. So luckily we had made sure that we had some buffer to sustain through that, right? And at that point of time, advertising revenue also dropped. So that was the first first hurdle that we had. So then we had to actually put solutions in place that kind of diversified our revenue streams, right? And once we started doing that, funding became easier, right? So people started connecting with us. People actually were interested in how we are moving across, what the vision is, right? Our vision also went through 2 or 3 iterations, because at the end of the day, you might know what you're doing, but you need to basically your investors need to understand what your vision is, right? And that requires you to go over it once or twice, right? It needs to be articulated in the best possible manner. And none of us come from a finance background. So for us, it was harder to try and convince what we are doing from an Excel file for our users. But again, when you're doing the job day in and day and night, you learn things. So we got used to it over time, and then that was the primary reason. It became easier because we had different channels. Right now we have insurance. Right now we have revenue coming directly from our users. Right now we have corporate tie-ups. Right now we have our own ad engine running where we don't need to rely on Facebook and Google. I can go directly to a PNG and run their campaign, right? So all that is already in place, essentially.
Right. And what advice do you have for founders looking to raise seed funding? What kind of criteria do they need to adhere to?
We've already been over these things, right? So you need to have a solution that the market requires, right? And you need to have enough, you need to have made a case that actually basically translates to your investors, and they see that there is this problem and you actually are the right solution for this, right? Most of the time what happens is you usually have somebody that's made it. So that's where the confidence comes from. And then they look at the founders, what they feel about the founders. Because in the beginning, right, when you're raising your first round, you're raising it on the founders, right? While the investors care about what your business plan is and all that, they need to be convinced that the founder can do what he's saying he's going to do, and they will put money on the founder. That is what they're doing. That's why we see people from IITs and IIMs have an easier task to raise funds, because they've already shown that they are their conviction to have gone through that process when they were younger and stick to things, right? And obviously they are the creme de la creme of the Indian basically whatever ecosystem.
Yeah.
So obviously make sure that you know what you are make sure you research everything that the investor you're talking to is into, right? Make sure the solution that you're providing is a solution that is necessary. Make sure you're innovating in some degree, and make sure you have a sustainable business model, right?
Okay.
If you check those things, you'll raise money. There's no chance you won't raise money, right?
Right. That's nicely summed up. So let's say that a founder has raised money. Now, after that, what can they do to ensure that they are investing the money in the business in a way that ensures business sustainability and growth?
No investor is going to give you money without you having a plan for that money.
Yeah.
I say this where there are daunting examples of things that are happening when this is not the case. But but if you're not a founder who's had a successful exit and you're the first time founder, they will be very interested in knowing exactly where the funds are going to be used, right? And that is the best place to see if what your plans are resonating with people with experience, right? So you most of the time you'll have VC. If you have if you have a mainstream VC that is investing in you, then they'll go through the due diligence. They will have a vetting system of what you're doing, and then they'll suggest also what needs to be done. And this is our experience and everything, right? But usually when you go pitch to somebody about the concept and why you need the funds, you need to also talk about where those funds are going to be used, right? And even if you don't have systems in place when it comes to MIS reporting and how this thing, there will be a system that will be given to you by the investors, which will take account for how you're spending the money that you've got, right? So usually when you're raising, if you raise the round, you already know how you're spending that money. Obviously things change on a daily level. Obviously you should pivot. Obviously you should read the Lean Startup if you're basically I'm also quoting books of things that you should read when you are starting up. But so usually if you've closed the round, it's all about sticking to your plans. If they're working, don't get carried away by the fact that you have money. So, okay, I'll experiment a little bit more without having a reason to why I'm experimenting. Don't get blinded by, okay, the confidence is there, I have the money, I can spend it here because I have a gut feeling. Don't lose the sight of how you raise that money, right? And just use it in the best possible manner to make sure you enable whatever growth, revenue, whatever that is, right?
Right. That's something to keep in mind. When we talk about raising the next round, what are the factors that the founders should consider? Is there a right time, or is there a trigger for something like that?
So usually you will raise a round, and you will have, when you raise a round, right, you will set goals that I will do this and this with the money that I'm getting in, right? You'll have, some investors will give you targets that you'll have to hit. Some investors might not hit the targets. They'll have features that you want to launch, right? Or revenue number that you have to hit, whatever the case might be. Usually you'll raise a round to do certain things. If you do those things much faster than you're expected, then you can actually go to the next round of investors and say, look, I raised this money. This is what I was supposed to do. I've used only half of that money, but now I want to scale. Usually how investment rounds work is your seed round usually gives you the capital to put your proof of concept into actually expanding it to a degree where you understand whether the market is ready for your solution or no. And if there is a key driver that you have seen that if you put money in that, it will grow substantially. That is where the Series A comes from, because Series A is usually termed for growth capital, right? Because now you know everything that's working, and you're going to use that capital to multiply everything that you have 10 folds, 100 folds, 1,000 folds, depending on if you're Bitcoin or not. But this thing, right? So that's essentially where I'm coming from when it comes to raising the next round, right? It depends on what you raise the last round for. Even if you learn enough and you don't do anything that you did in the last round, but you build the infrastructure, and then obviously you can showcase that all this money is used here. Some of it got wasted because we tried a few things, but this is what we could do. If you've done everything that you're supposed to, that you said you would do after the round, you will be able to raise the next round with a multiplier. There's no doubt about this. There are situations where nothing goes according to plan, right? And then you have to basically either extend your round, do a down round, whatever that might be, right? But at the end of the day, if you hit if you hit everything that you want to do, and now you know you need the infusion of funds to grow substantially, that's when. Usually, if you do everything you're supposed to, FOMO gets the investment community, and they'll reach out to you if you're lucky, and then they'll say, "Tell me more about it. I see you've done this. I see you now. You're doing this. Tell me more." Right? So usually, after you raise the first round, you'll have investors that are in constant touch because it's a small community that people that invest in companies, right? So you will be in the fray and you'll know that you can raise more money. Now it's up to you to decide, is the right time now, or should I have runway for another 24 months? Let me build this feature so when I launch that, I'll get a better multiplier, so I can raise a bigger round to do more things, right? At the end of the day, you just look at why you're raising the next round.